All right.
We gotta put these mics on. You always forget that part. Hey, what's up, good people? Welcome to another Relationship Thursday. We can give y'all a second to come on in here.
What's happening? My name is Iyana Ma'at.
And my name is Ayize Ma'at.
Yes.
We see some people coming in. Hey, when y'all come in, let us know where you're tuning in from. Drop the name of the location where you be.
Please do. You're joining us for another Relationship Thursday. And we like to come to you guys each and every Thursday. We do the best that we can so that not only are we dropping something to y'all, but we want y'all to drop something for us. And I'm telling y'all, sometimes y'all send some messages afterwards and some insight that is mind-blowing. So yes. I appreciate the circle and I appreciate the community. We see you coming in on Facebook and we see you coming in on YouTube. Yes, I want to shout out Danielle representing the ATL. And I see, hey,
what's up, Cheryl?
And I see Taja representing Boston.
We got 529 in the house.
She's always representing. And I see Rita from Florida. Represent Rita from Florida. What's the weather like there, Rita?
Stephanie came in the house as well. So we appreciate everybody tuning in this evening. You know y'all got other stuff to do, but what we think is important is that you prioritize your relationship. We really think that you lifting up and edifying your relationship is where it's at. So again, what we're attempting to do is to bring you some insight, some information, some education. I don't know whether or not y'all can see us clearly on Facebook. It might be shifted in and out. It might be doing some type of adjustment. It just might be my phone. Who knows what it is. But again, we're going to do what we do to make sure that we give y'all some good information this evening as we talk about 7 ways that anger might be stopping you from experiencing intimacy in your relationship. And what can you do about that? It's really important because when it comes to being in a relationship, baby, there's been a number of times where I've been in a mood, been in a funk, and really haven't wanted to get real intimate with you.
Oh, okay.
I really haven't.
You sound like you're always ready. You say
I
so.
seem like I'm always ready. It's certain times when I'm like, I'm not really feeling it. Just based off of the fact that I'm in a stank space. But what I will say is that more often than not, it's you who's putting up that block, putting up that wall when you're in a stank space. And so again, we don't visit those spaces often, but it would be abnormal if we say we didn't visit them at all. And so if you're in any relationship, a healthy relationship, just know that you will have some type of contention, you will have some issues, you will have some drama, and it's absolutely okay. And so tonight's live stream, y'all, we're going to be talking about anger and the ways that you can anger from really blocking your intimacy. Because at the end of the day, what we all want is to be connected, right?
I mean, that's what we say that we want. And so I think it's important for us to really be clear about the fact that while we may say we want to be close and we want to have the kind of openness and transparency and connection and all of that, we don't often act in ways that allow us to do that. You know how, you ever seen somebody successful in a certain area and you say, well, how did you do that? Well, I went to school, I did this, I did that, I did this, right? And then you look up and you're like, dang, you know, how'd you save so much money? Well, you know, I started to pay attention to and focus on budgets and all that. And then I started to get a little more, you know, focused on this money coming in and I automated some things, right? All of that stuff. And then we don't want to be about it. We don't want to do the work that's required to be able to get the capital and the money that we want to. It's the same thing with relationships. If you want to have a certain level of success, you want to have a certain level of connection, you got to be disciplined and you got to do the right things. And oftentimes anger gets in the way. You know what I'm saying? Just holding on to stuff, being resentful. You know what I'm saying? I'm resentful of this mic right now because it's just not flowing with me tonight. So I mean, yeah, I was trying to crack a joke.
I think that it's fine.
You could just laugh.
I think that the mic is fine. Why don't you put it up here?
Okay. Maybe I'll try that. So tonight we want to kind of break down some of the ways that anger and resentment and holding on to position and being more dedicated to your agenda. I don't know if I'm doing this thing right or not. Being more dedicated to your agenda than you are to the relationship. Being more concerned about being right than you are about the relationship. We want you to avoid that. And there are some ways that you can avoid it that are not based on how you feel. It's not based on your emotion or whether you're feeling something or not. It is based on doing what's best for not only yourself, but the relationship. So again, if you're just joining us, we're talking about anger tonight, how it gets in the way of connection. Everybody wants to be close and have that type of relationship. And so do you think you're going to have that and never get into a little fuss with your boo? You think that's going to happen and you're not going to ever get kind of like outraged? Like outraged. You know what I'm saying? Like you're going to have some real difficult times. How do you come back from that? You know, somebody say your camera is blurred. There you go. This is your camera. I don't know what's going on with your camera. Thank you for letting us know that, Benny. We don't know what's going on with it. We were trying to work with it. We might have. I don't know what to do with it. Yeah. So we just a little bit blurry today, but we hope you can hear us coming through strong. We got a couple of likes, all right, so y'all can hear us okay. I don't know what's wrong with the camera. We're gonna work on that. But I just want to start now. How many folks know that anger or getting really mad and being really, really rooted in your position and wanting people to come to you and kind of, you know, tell you that they got it or apologize? Like, how many folks struggle with that? Or you don't even struggle with that. That's just who you are. That's how you do. And it causes you to be at a disconnect, whether it's in your current relationship or a prior relationship for a long time, or for, you know, you ever been, yeah, I know I've been here. You ever had some stuff going on between you and your partner, and you so mad and straight up can't remember the very first, like, what was this actually about? Do you know what I mean? Like, because now there's been like 2 or 3 things that have gotten added in, and you don't remember what it was about in the beginning, but you're just mad. And so I love Andrea here on Facebook. Blurry Facebook. I should be blurry, y'all. We sorry about that. She says, I know I am emotional and I get angry, and it's hard to see any perspective but my own when I'm in that space. I feel you. And I love the honesty. And we got some folks who are just saying, yep, that's me. So again, tonight, we want to go ahead and break this thing down and get into how we can prevent ourselves or catch ourselves or get ourselves back into alignment with what successful couples do when they find themselves in those places, and not what emotional people do, or people who are not well managed, don't know how to regulate themselves so that they can do what they need to do. I want to shout out though Jeffrey Johnson from the DMV.
Hey, what's up, Jeff?
I have to say what's going on to you.
I think Jeff, he might be a BSU alumni.
Oh, okay.
Is this the same Jeff? If so, what's up, Jeff?
All right, so let's go ahead and get started.
Hey,
again, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, before we get started, y'all, please like, please comment, please share. If you haven't already shared, we really appreciate that. We feel that the messages that we give, the insight, the information that not only that we give, but you all give as well, could be beneficial to so many people. But they won't get it unless you share it. So please, please, please share. In addition to that, what I do want to say is this. Last week, we did a live stream that focused on Will and Jada. And we talked about their relationship and their whole red table talk. And so I'm doubling back to that really quickly, because I feel as though we didn't address a couple of things that were lifted up in that live stream. So we're going to touch on these really quickly.
Oh, but I didn't know you were doing that.
The first thing is this, y'all. When it comes to their relationship, one comment that Jada made was that, you know, we're going to be married regardless or whatever happens. And so she said that what I liked is that she emphasized the importance of commitment. That's critical. We always talk about how there's 3 C's that are required for a successful relationship, and that's commitment, connection, and courage. And so she said that we in this thing. I'm ride or die. We in this thing, and we're going to be committed no matter what. But what she also said is that you're going to be on one side of the house. I'm going to be on the other. You're going to be with whomever. I'm going to be with whomever. But we're going to be in this thing together. And so what I want to lift up is that, again, some relationships, they function and they work that way. But I would not necessarily endorse that lifestyle or that type of marriage or that type of relationship mentality, because it's coming from a space of dysfunction. It's almost as if you're settling in a relationship when you make a decision that you can have your man, you can have your woman, you could do your thing over there, and the priority is really just us being together. And so essentially what you're doing is existing in a functional relationship, which is okay. But again, you want to make sure that you're addressing the underlying stuff that's leading you to a place where you feel as though you have to be in 2 separate places and you can't coexist in the same space.
And I don't know that I would say it's okay.
Okay.
I think that people make their choices. Thank you, Benny. Benny shared to 4 different groups. That's what's up. We appreciate that. So I don't know that it's okay, but I know that it's a choice that many people make. I do want to qualify, though, and say that Jada did say, people were talking about that a lot. She did say that's not what we want, right? But she just was trying to make her point that we're gonna be in this no matter what. But sometimes when we make statements like that, like no matter what, you do you, I do me. I mean, I think the overarching point she was trying to lift up is the commitment is here through and through. But we have to have some boundaries in terms of how we think, because it is dysfunctional. And a lot of people, I mean, we could do a whole nother live stream, could we not, on how many folks out there are in your marriage right now, and you got a work spouse who you get along with better, who you talk to a little longer, and who you feel a little more safe with.
You ain't supposed to be singing that part. You ain't supposed to be doing that.
That's not about, well, how are you interpreting my ooh?
I'm just saying.
I'm saying like I'm hitting it right there. Like that's going on. That doesn't mean I'm co-signing it. It means that that's happening. You know what I mean? There are plenty of people out there who are in relationships and they have other arrangements. You know what I'm saying? Other ways to connect, other ways to get your needs met, and you don't even realize and recognize that every way that you get your need met by sharing with somebody else, getting validation from somebody else, you know, that's my buddy, that's my best friend, whatever that means, right? That you are pulling away from and taking away from investing in the relationship that you say is most important to you. So we have to be careful about those things. And a lot of people, well, Andrea has said it, situationships. You understand? That's a good, let me use that, situationships. Because that's really what it is. It's all these situations, and then we wonder why we don't have what we need in the relationship that we say is most important to us. So that's really important. Okay. So was that it? Was there something else you wanted to clear up? Did you send me the thing?
I did.
In my email?
Nah, I'll send it to you right
now. Oh no, I mean, is it in your email?
Yeah.
Okay, well I don't got it. That's fine. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Excuse us for that.
The other thing that I wanted to lift up was as it pertains to, I think we addressed the DV situation, not the DV, but the I mean him getting aggressive.
I don't know where you're going, so I'm just with you. I'm riding.
I mean him hitting her over the head with the newspaper. But in addition to that, really what I wanted to lift up is that the fact that she acknowledged towards the end of the Red Table Talk.
It's so blurry.
It'll be out. It'll work itself out, boom. So at the end of the Red Table Talk, she said that essentially we're a work in progress. And where we are today might not be where we're going to be at in a year or so. And so I want everybody to take away from that. So she gave a definition of what she thought marriage wasn't or was, and she backed away from the fact that she feels as though they really ain't got no marriage. They don't define themselves as a marriage.
I was not feeling that.
It's what did they call it? A life partnership.
What the hell is marriage other than a life partnership?
Yeah. So in our last live stream, and we addressed that, and we actually used their definition of a life partnership to illustrate how it actually is a marriage. And so what I do want to lift up is that, you know, when it comes to people being in their process, really respect the process. Respect the process and know that where they are, it doesn't have to define where you are, or you don't necessarily have to use that as an illustration of what you should achieve or strive for, but just again, know that they're in process. And so, you know, everybody's putting hashtag relationship goals, but really what I want you to do is focus on your relationship and what you can do to improve the quality of what's going on in your world.
That's a good point. All right, guys. So we're getting ready to, again, if you're just joining us, get into 7 ways to stop anger from blocking your intimacy, to allow you to get out of your own way. So I'm going to let you go ahead and get started.
And if you have not shared, please go ahead and share. And so the first thing that you want to do, y'all, a lot of times when people enter into disagreements and have just stress and tension or anger in their relationship, it's coming from a space where, again, you think that you're trying to really get your way. And so you're being manipulative. You might be being conniving and manipulative, and positioning themselves in such a way because people got issues and don't want to be wrong. They don't want to be wrong. They can't let certain things go. And so what happens is that they find themselves in a situation where they say that they want to improve the relationship, but really what their actions indicate is that, no, I just want to be right. I want to be right, and I want you to go along with me in being right. And I don't necessarily want to even give voice or volume to your voice. And so, you know, when it comes to the thing that you need to do is really establish, y'all, a mutual commitment to resolving issues. This is number 1, y'all. Establish a mutual commitment to resolving issues.
What does that mean?
Yeah, if you find yourself in a space where it's only one person working on a relationship or working on certain things in a relationship, then it's a possibility, whether it be in the area of finances, whether it be in the area of child rearing, whether it be in the area of intimacy, specifically as it pertains to sex. It could be in any number of areas. If you're the only person that's working, what happens? What do you feel? How do you feel in a relationship if you feel like you're isolated or existing in an isolated fashion in this relationship? You start to build up a wall of resentment. You start to get angry. You start to get mad. You start to lash out verbally, unfortunately, sometimes physically. And so what you want to do is establish a mutual commitment to resolving issues in your relationship. And so what that means is that both of y'all got to prioritize the relationship over yourself. Mm-hmm. There has to be a commitment to working through stuff. And it's not to say that you're going to work through stuff today, but there has to be a commitment to work through stuff, whether it take a day, a month, a week, a year, or even years, but you're constantly putting it on the table. And so if both of you all can come to an agreement that we have to work through this together, there's a mutual commitment to the betterment of us, then what that does is it increases the intimacy in a relationship because you don't feel alone. You feel like you got a partner in your process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that this one is really important to be intentional about, because oftentimes, you know, what happens is, you know, like my husband said, one person is trying to get it resolved, or they want to talk about it. The other person is like, we done, right? And so if you don't, one of you, whoever has the most insight, is obligated to use it, mm-hmm. right? So if it's you and you don't say, look, I feel like when we have disagreements, I feel like whatever's happening, right? Oftentimes we just kind of like get into it and then it just kind of dissipates and we don't ever come back to it. Or I'm often bringing it. Or you may be bringing it, right? And then we don't necessarily have any way to know that we are going to make sure that we resolve this in some way, mm-hmm. that we resolve it, that we manage it. Actually, we should really be saying manage it, because mm-hmm. Most couples do not resolve all of their differences and all of their issues. They learn how to manage their issues successfully. So you need to say that to your partner, mm-hmm. like say that, especially if you know that's something that you all need to work on. And then the next thing they probably say, well, how are we going to, what's that mean? So I mean, I got to sit here and like, we got to keep rapping about this thing over and over again. Are you going to keep wrapping me up or whatever, right? But then that means that you all are then able to have a discussion about what it looks like, and use some different kinds of techniques to be able to say, we're going to, you know, take 1 hour, one topic, one day, for example, and we're going to talk about it for that amount of time, and then we're going to be done with it. Then we come back to it, you know, another time, right? Or I'll share what I need to share by writing. You share what you need to share by writing, and then we'll read it, and we won't say nothing for a day, right? Like you can look up different things, but that's being intentional to try to get something cleared up. And to try to get some forward movement. It's not intentional when things pop off when y'all on the way out to work. And then the next conversation gets brought up when you're in the car getting ready to walk into church. And then the next time, you know, somebody say something, you got something smart to say, right? Mm-hmm. And you're bringing it up again. Yeah. You know, in the midst of being out to dinner, right? Like that's not a true process. And we talk a lot about having a process. Mm-hmm. So number 2, this one is really, 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 really important. This is one way to make sure that anger does not stop intimacy. Mm-hmm. Is that, again, you need to talk about this one. You make sure that you create a context. For my note takers, write it down. You create a context for being physically intimate. Mm. What does that mean? That means that, you know, contrary to how I used to be, where, you know, well, I shouldn't say I'm totally used to be. Sometimes I can still be there, but I'm trying to work on it, and I've gotten better over time. But if we are not well, right? If we're not, this blurry screen is really annoying me. I'm just going to keep saying that every now and then, so I'm sorry. But if we're not well and we're disconnected and I'm angry, you're trying to do what? You're trying to like, that's what he want to do the most when we angry. Like, come here, you want to come get close to me. I'm trying to make it better. Right, you know, and to me, it feels like, and I know many women can high five me on this, it feels like you're dismissing whatever the issue is or the issues are, and you're not really trying to deal with it, right? And you think we're just gonna come get cozy. Ain't nobody ain't nobody got time for that. You know what I'm saying? So that's difficult for me. But when you create a context, again, that's the second point here. When you create a context for physical intimacy, what that means is this, y'all. It means that you establish that we can have sex. We can have sex even when there is a disconnect. Mm-hmm. And when we commit to, first and foremost, like we said off the break, when we commit to making sure that we're really, really being committed to a process, then we know that you know what, it doesn't mean that we agree. It doesn't mean that we're okay. But having a space and a safe space for physical intimacy in the midst of disagreement and disconnect can actually help move us forward. It can actually help move us forward. So we have to be able to commit to that. And what I would say is this, you know, it takes discipline. It takes discipline to be physically intimate and to do what's required and to still connect physically and sexually even when you're not feeling the other person. But how many times can I tell you, and I know many women I've talked to, and men for that matter, in counseling have said, you know, but when we just went on ahead and let our guard down and we did what we need to do, you want to do something about that. When we did that, then it elevated us to another level. We were able to push, you know, beyond where we were. So again, creating a context, that means that, you know what, sex is a non-negotiable. It has to happen. If it's not happening and we're having some really difficult issues and we're just not doing it, that's not okay. It's not okay, whatever the issue is, but it's also not okay for there to be long-standing, ongoing lack of connection. Because if you take it above, especially to my ladies, if you take it above and beyond, oh, it's sex and you just want to get some and it's a pleasurable thing, it is also a way to make sure that you and your partner are staying connected spiritually, emotionally, mentally, not just physically. And if there's a disconnect for a long time or for an extended period of time, now you open up difficulty in terms of other things in the relationship. So that's how you can block. That's how you can try to not block intimacy, by making sure that you connect.
And so I'm seeing a number of comments here that seem to express that there's an element of difficulty in doing that. And you even lifted that up. And so I get that. And I get that you might not necessarily be feeling it. You don't want to do it. And I see how Shay, you know, says that, oh, that's difficult.
It is.
And I definitely understand the difficulty in doing that. And so if you think about intimacy as being other than sex, something more fruitful, something more deep than sex, then you'll recognize that it doesn't have to be confined to just a sexual experience. And so intimacy, it begins, you know, with eye contact. It begins with a touch. And so what do you indicate? What do you express? What do you request in your touch when you touch your partner? What are you requesting? You know, what are you indicating when you look at your partner? And so the intimacy begins then. And if you find yourself in your relationship in an experience where you are sex starved, again, you don't have to jump the gun and go straight to sex. What I'm encouraging you to do is really start small. I mean, holding your partner's hand, giving your partner a hug, kissing him or her on the neck, grabbing them and squeezing them and looking in their eyes, having a conversation. These are things that are required in order for you to get to the point to where you actually engage in sex. And so, again, when it says that created context for physical intimacy, what we're talking about is the engagement that happens before the engagement. What we're talking about is you actually knowing, understanding, and having a feel for what the temperament, what the mood is and the tone is in the relationship, and being intentional about how you engage your partner to make sure that connection is what is of the utmost importance for you all. And you do that again in your gaze. You do that again in your physical touch, in your touch of the hand, touch of the face. It could be any number of things, but it doesn't just have to be sex. Sex is really important, but sex begins before you get in the bedroom.
Well.
It really does.
Indeed it does. Indeed it does. So next up on the list, again, if you're just joining us, we're talking tonight about some ways to stop anger from getting in the way of your intimacy. We want to be close. We want to be connected, but we be beefing. You know what I mean? And we need to figure out how to manage that stuff and recognize and understand and accept that it is a normal part of a relationship. And if you're always waiting to be over it before you can get connected again, guess what? In the meantime, your relationship is at risk. You know, it may be unraveling. Your connection is unraveling because you're waiting to be good again. And you cannot do that. You have to learn how to be good and maintain connection even in the midst of disagreement. So we want to help some of y'all hotheads. And I know I have been one and can be one from allowing anger to stop intimacy, but not just the hotheads, even the ones who brood and withdraw and retreat and go within. when we're quiet and don't have nothing to say. All of that stuff, silent treatment stuff, all of it, whether you're popping off or you're closing and shutting down, gets in the way of a good, healthy, successful relationship. What number is this? Number 3, number 4?
Number three.
Number 3, get a life. Get a life. So again, just to give you a proper understanding and perspective, right? There are going to be issues. There are going to be problems, yo. Like, that's what it is. When you don't have anything else going on in your life, then what is happening in your relationship, you become consumed by it. You understand what I'm saying? You become obsessed with it. And that's all your, let me break it down like this. I know y'all know what I'm talking about. Some of y'all might fall in this category, but have you heard about how important it is for couples to connect in a relationship? Because one day, for those who have children, your children will grow up, they will leave you, right? Y'all know this story. And when they leave you, if you ain't been figuring out what's happening between the two of you or for yourself, then you don't know what to do no more, because your kids is gone and you ain't got nobody to take to school and you ain't got nobody to, wipe their little stuff or make them something to eat or give them some advice. Right? Because you don't have a life outside of your children. Well, that's the same thing that can happen in a relationship. Relationships evolve and grow just like we as individuals evolve and grow. And so there are times when my husband and I are very disconnected because I'm in a very immature place in my own personal development. We ain't gonna move beyond that next level because I've not gotten the insight yet to understand what I need to understand so that I can give him what he needs and ultimately get what I need and elevate our relationship.
Can you say that one more time?
That's just where I am.
Can you say it just one more time?
Can I say it one more time?
Just one more time, yeah.
Some things we're not going to be able to move forward in. There are going to be some spaces in the relationship, some seasons in the relationship where you're stuck. I'm going to switch it now. Where you say it's stuck and he just can't give me what I need.
You put the spin move on it.
I put the spin move on it. And he's not going to be able to meet that need for me. We're not going to move forward on that issue. We're going to kind of stay in that. We're going to stay in that for a while. So if I'm hanging out there, what do I do while I hang out? Do I obsess? And I have to focus on it. He not telling me what I want to hear. He ain't saying what I want him to say. He don't get it. I'm going to tell my mom. I'm going to tell my girlfriend. I'm going to read books on it. I'm going to go and I'm going to Google about it. I'm going to come look at these relationship Thursdays. I'm going to keep coming at him. What you doing? What you doing? I'm upset. I am not happy. This is not working. Whatever you focus on is what you grow. And so when you get a life, you have other things that will help you to even decompress, to get that stuff off of you. I am an emotional person. And so I have to have ways to get that stuff out. And I've had to learn and I have to remind myself even now at times, wait a minute, you've given him about, 70% of this issue today. Where else can you get this need met so that you don't overwhelm this brother? Exercise, get connected into some social groups, right? Do some other things so that you have more going on than just what is happening in the relationship. Because when it's not well, that will be what you focus on. And without realizing it, you'll grow that. You'll grow the unwellness. But when you are well, because you are well-rounded, then you grow that. And you come back refreshed because you've been able to connect in with someone else, or not someone else like that, but another group, another person. You've been restored, you've been fed, you've been refreshed, whatever. And you bring that energy into the relationship because you have a life. So that's number 3.
I like that. Get a life. So get a life gives you perspective. It really gives you perspective.
That's it right there.
And one thing I do want to lift up is that when you get your life, you'll start to get a glimpse of possibly what other people are experiencing in their relationship. And you'll realize that your stuff that stinks, it really don't smell that bad. And so you start to develop maybe even a different appreciation for your partner, because that anger, that bitterness, that just stankness that you're holding on to, you could have let that thing go a long time ago, and you realize that other people's situations, they're still in their stuff, but it's way worse than yours. We got over 900 videos on YouTube, y'all. We got some jacked up situations that people have sent in to us, asking us to help them in their relationship. If you want to find some stories or some situations that can help you feel better in your relationship, not that you want to feel better based off of other people's stuff, but again, oftentimes your stuff ain't as bad as other people's stuff, but your stuff may feel very bad to you. But again, as my wife just mentioned, what you need to do is get your life and get a life, because in doing that, it'll help you to get some perspective.
There you go. Number 4, we're halfway through.
Number 4, y'all. If you have not shared yet, please share, please share, please share.
And again, we are talking tonight about some strategies to get anger out of the way in the relationship so that you can maintain connection and intimacy.
Blocking intimacy.
I just want to shout out Ronisha. She said, during my separation and divorce, I practice GAL. Let me find out you got an acronym going on, sis. I practice GAL, getting a life. It literally saved my life. I feel you on that. I feel you on that.
Why
yeah. Because oftentimes, again, whatever the discomfort is, whatever the difficulty is in our lives, whether it's in our relationship, you know, she's talking about during separation and divorce, it is overwhelming and it can be all consuming. But what happens to us in our world is only a reflection of what's happening on the inside. Because I've said this 1,000 times. I'm sure some of y'all who follow us and connect with us online have heard me say it before. I'm going to say it again. Two people grew up in the same situation, two people experiencing the same difficulty, and they have completely different experiences. But wait a minute, I just said they experienced the same thing. That's because they are having two different reactions or responses. One person is deciding to what? Get a life. To say, you know what, I don't have to be all consumed by this. I've done my part. I've said my piece. Let me break up off of that for a second. You know, time out is real. It's not just for 2-year-olds. Time out is for adults. I can't come to that, even though I really want to, because that's one of the hardest things for me to do, y'all. Sometimes we got a time out up in here with the stuff that we're dealing with, and he's all for it. Time out, yeah, that's good. Ain't you? You ready for it? You like, if we can delay it,
well,
let's
depends on
delay
what it
it.
is.
But most of the time, you prefer to delay it. Let's be real, okay? And I'm like, yo, I want to talk about this. But really, is it that I want to talk about it? I do want resolution, but I also want to ventilate. I want to vent. And what I tell people all the time, it's not appropriate always for you to be venting, because that's not resolution. That's you getting some stress relief because you're stressed about this thing. That's not resolution. That's not resolving or managing the conflict or the issue. It is just stress relief. And you got to figure out another way to do it. So getting a life is that strategy that you can use to do that. So yeah, let's move on.
So Nikki is asking a question. Why is it that the majority of the time women have to check themselves and cater to the man?
Oh, excuse me. Whoop, 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 wow. Yeah. Oh. So I find it interesting that you asked that question, and I also understand that question.
I don't think that's the case, though.
Well, I said I find it interesting because I wondered if what I just said, even like you Nikki, thought, okay, well, you're saying that women, because I'm sharing that, sometimes I need to pull back, that, I'm suggesting that women need to cater to our men and check ourselves, right? Well, I'm a woman who's had to be checked plenty of times. There's very few people who can check me, but this one can. And I'm the master checker underneath my God, my creator, right? So I can only speak on myself and what my experience is and my experiences with other women, but it is not true. So it's interesting that you say that, because I think it's cultural that people even have that perspective. I say it's interesting because I ain't say that. I don't think any of us said that, right? But I think that's the feeling a lot of times. That, when you think about, you just look at the history of marriage and relationships, there's this, whole deference piece for women to defer to their men, to make them comfortable, to make them happy, to not overwhelm them, right? As if, y'all are, got to be handled with care. And to be truthful, men should be handled with care. My man, I try to handle with care as best I can, but I need to be handled with care as well. It's equal. But I think that is, when I say cultural, I mean, it is a part of the fabric of patriarchy and this society. It's infused in everything that we breathe and see and touch. That we have to have that kind of orientation towards men. And then you will have, because I see my brother here, Tasson said, my wife don't do that.
And you say, why is it that the man always has to kiss the woman's butt?
See, he has a whole nother idea, right? Yeah. So I think that oftentimes women, there are women who go to, far to the left or far to the right, because they're like, oh no, they're resisting all of that. Like, I got to do this for you, and I got to, no, what you're going to do for me? Because and so they go far to the left, far to the right. And I think that we have to understand that it's okay and it's necessary, and only successful couples come back to the middle. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I'm going to take care of him. He's going to take care of me. I'm going to cater to him. It's okay for me to say that. And he's going to cater to me. We're going to do both of those things. And I do think that we should resist some of what we're talking about here are gender stereotypes. Some of the gender stereotypes that get in the way. But let me be clear. I'm never judging anybody for how they flow. And sometimes, okay, I'm not going to digress for too long. I've seen a conversation between stay-at-home mothers and mothers who've chosen to go back to work. I've seen this stuff online where one group is trying to make the other group feel, a certain type of way. I'm a mom, and I want to be with my kids and take care of my family, and that's the greatest honor in life. And then the women who are working, I have so much more to give the world. My intellect must be inspired, and I wouldn't just, as much as I love my children and my family, there's so much more. That's not mutually exclusive. Those two things don't have to exist in a separate place. And I think we just go down the wrong road when we try to make one or the other bad. We try to make one or the other incorrect or not the right path. So when we take it back to what we're talking about in terms of men and women and how we deal with one another, what works for me works for me. And we've worked with many couples, who when they hear some of the stuff, because we share pretty freely in terms of how we flow, they're like, no, we couldn't get down like that. Yeah. Like, okay, how can it how can it work for you? What can you do that will work for you? And we tell people that all the time. So it's not really about there being a right or wrong way all the time. It's really about making sure that you're doing what works well for you and that you're communicating that. And if you are sensitive to patriarchy and sexism and all that kind of stuff, speak on it. And we speak on that thing. Sometimes I'm like, wait a minute. And he like, man, it's not even like that. And I'm like, no, but it is. You just didn't know, right? And so we're helping each other and pushing each other to grow. Great question. I thank you for that.
Yeah. And for the latecomers, please go ahead and feel free to share. Let's cover these other points that we did prior to now.
I don't remember.
All right, so the first one, y'all, was establish a mutual commitment to resolving issues. Again, we're talking about 7 ways that you can stop letting anger block the intimacy in your relationship. And so again, we said establish a mutual commitment to resolving issues.
And the second one was to create a context for physical and sexual intimacy, meaning that you're creating an agreement around the fact that just because we beefing doesn't mean we don't have sex. Doesn't mean we don't connect emotionally and intimately, physically. And you have to talk about that so that you can be intentional about that.
And then the third one was GAL.
Get a life.
Yeah.
Get a life. Stop focusing all your energy and all your efforts and all your anxiety on your relationship, and figure out some other things to do so that you are not completely overwhelmed by it, because a well-balanced person creates a well-balanced partner.
All right. So number 4, y'all. Number 4 is fight fair.
I thought we did a number 4.
We did. Number 4 is fight.
We talking way too much, y'all. Yes.
No, you.
Okay, whatever. I know he's gonna get me.
You went on this long diatribe, and
this is like, okay, I'm not gonna.
Number 4.
I'm gonna have like 3 sentences next time I speak. Watch me.
Y'all don't believe
3 sentences. 5. Okay, 7. So no play.
Number 4: fight fair and listen to one another. Fight fair and listen to one another. This right here is a critical one, because we've seen. Now, as my wife mentioned earlier, we're both licensed therapists and we do work with couples and individuals, but we've seen in the context of couple sessions that we've seen situations go from good to worse in a blink of an eye. Now, we're guiding them through a process where we're assisting them to bring out some stuff, but couples really quickly go from 0 to 100 real quick.
Oh, yeah.
Real quick. And it's because you're not fighting fair. You're throwing out all kinds of names, all kinds of accusations, all kind of blaming. And as a result, again, you all find yourselves in your separate corners with your backs turned towards one another. And so what you want to do is you want to find yourself in this relationship, again, fighting fair and listening to one another. There was a study that was done, y'all. There was a study that consisted of a number of different couples. And what was found is that the couples who were able to maintain the intimacy in their relationship, the number one ingredient that they found in terms of maintaining the intimacy in their relationship, even when they were dealing with stressful, contentious, and problem situations, was the fact that they expressed an understanding of their partner's point of view. There was understanding that was present in the relationship. There was understanding that was present in the conversation. And so if you find yourself in a space where you're always bumping up against your partner, you're always feeling tempted to throw insults, you're always feeling tempted to blame your partner, that right there is not coming from a position of understanding. Again, seek first to understand and then to be understood, y'all. Again, the most successful relationships are ones where the partner, your partner or you, are attempting to understand your partner's point of view and perspective. And if you can understand your partner's point of view and perspective, it gives you the ability to be able to fight fair in a relationship, because again, there's validity in what they're saying. But if you feel like it's only your way, you're the only one that's right, then what happens is that you end up finding yourself in a position where you're blaming, where you're judging, where you're putting your partner's position and you're minimizing their feelings down. That's not what you want to do. Again, you want to seek first to understand and then to be understood. Fight fair and listen to one another.
How can you fight fair? I think that's a fair question. And so this next one is really about getting very intimate with yourself and with your partner. And that means that you have to know what the signs are. What are the signs that your partner is getting angry? What are the signs that you're getting angry, that you might be getting ready to go there? I mean, I love Marcia. Marcia Young is just keeping it 100. She said, I think I just black out. Lord. You need to check in on the signs for yourself. What do you do? And I would encourage you to do this. You can do this with your partner. You can say, look, I want us to really try to get better with how we manage, just our disagreements and stuff like that. And so the next time, can we just, of course, you want to say this at a time where you all are cool and y'all are chill. The next time we are, in a discussion or a disagreement, we see it's going down that road, can we try to remember, try to tell me what you see in me that I'm doing that maybe I might not be aware of, and I will do the same for you. We won't do it at that time because you're not going to be receptive, but that you all kind of take note while you're in that disagreement or that argument or whatever, of what the other person is doing or demonstrating. My husband used to say to me, you don't say it anymore, but you used to tell me that I did something, like I licked my lips or I did something. What was it? I can't remember what it was. You tell me that when I would get angry, I would do something. I can't remember, but it was a long time ago. I must have gotten over that because it's been years. And I have to try to think about that. And I'll be like, what are you talking about? No, I don't. You're like, yes, you do. You always do that when you're really getting upset. Right. And so it was something that I did not even have awareness of for myself. I know when my husband is getting a little uncomfortable because he smiles. And so that's something that I'm aware of. So I know that if he's getting a little uncomfortable, it may be because of some of the energy that I'm giving, that I don't realize that I'm giving, that my anger or what I'm saying or how I'm coming, even though I think I'm relatively calm, it may be a little too much for him. And I would not have known that. But now I know that's one of the signs for him. So you have to become intimate with yourself. You have to know not only what your triggers are, what takes you there, but you got to know, like, what do you do? Because as soon as you become aware, see, the moment you get this understanding about yourself and you become aware, now you are automatically responsible for doing something different. You gotta be willing to do something different. It's not an activity of like, I just want to know myself and be responsible for nothing. In my office, I have a sign up that says, please take responsibility for the energy that you bring in this space. I got that from Oprah. Any Oprah people out there, y'all probably heard her say it. But I put that up in my office. Please be responsible for the energy that you bring in this space. But first and foremost, when I come in my office every day, I got to be responsible for what I'm coming with. Yeah. Right. And I may not be aware of it. So that's how you can fight fair. You have to know what the signs are of your partner and then respect it. Don't look at it and just minimize it.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? Then back off. You know what I'm saying? Chill. Watch your tone. Are you good? Check in with them. Do we need to break? Do we need to stop? And maybe sometimes it's a little too much to say something, but you can just shift your energy because you know what the other person is feeling or may potentially be feeling.
And another thing too is that, you need to give yourself at least the room, the latitude to be able to respond, but respond with responsibility. And, I lift that up. We actually gave that to a couple as a homework assignment yesterday. Respond responsibly when you get upset. So we're not saying don't get mad. We're not saying don't get angry. That's normal. But if you get angry, respond responsibly. And so what that means is that, again, you have to assess and identify what your triggers are. But then when you identify what your triggers are, it's important that you find a way to respond responsibly, not just to your partner, but for you.
Right.
For you, you have to respond responsibly for you. And so if that means that you need to take a time out, take a break, take a walk, if that means that you need to go get in the shower, go for a run, if you need to read a book, whatever it is that you need to do to actually calm yourself, so that you can respond responsibly, it's critical that you do so. Because when you don't, again, what that does is it creates a wedge in you all's connection with one another because you're just popping off. So you need to make sure that you have some sense of responsibility in how you respond when you're triggered.
All right, and this is was that number 6?
That was
you
number
just
4.
did?
This is number 5.
No.
It is, bro.
What we're getting ready to do is number 6.
Number
what we just did was number 5.
We did number 4.
Okay, so let's go over all of them.
All right. Number one, y'all, is to establish a mutual commitment to resolving issues.
Number 2 was create a context, right? Create a context for physical intimacy. Number 3 was get a life.
And then number 4, ding, 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 was fight fair and listen to one another.
Oh, yeah, fight fair. And then number 5, I said in order to fight fair, you need to, you said number 4 was fight fair. Mm-hmm. Number 5 was if you're going to fight fair, then you need to know what you're looking for, to be intimately aware, right? So then what number are we on?
I thought that was just a lower tag.
No, it wasn't. That's what you do. You want to untag on. No, that was number 5. So now we on number 6. Number 5 was making sure that you are aware of what's happening for you. You have to know your own signs. Okay. What are the signs that I'm getting angry, that my partner's getting angry? You be trying to hold us up. You want us to be on this job all night long.
I'm just saying.
So now we on number 6, right? So number 6 is this. I want you to think about your kids. Any of you who have children. Think about your children. And if you don't have children, you got nephews, nieces, or you ever seen some kids, just think about some kids, okay? And think about what works with them when they are angry, particularly little kids, right? So let's think about the age of 5 and under. When you have a child who is upset, you are oftentimes much more able to meet them at their point of need. And while it may seem very difficult and it may seem ridiculous and you shouldn't have to do it, scratch all of that. Scratch all of that. What you need to do is when you think about children and how they respond in the moment, I'm talking about when you're in the middle of a conversation and your partner is starting to go awry, right? Or maybe, the anger is just happening and you know what's up, or maybe it's happening for you. What would you tell a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old to do to manage themselves? What would you ask of a 5 or 6-year-old in terms of expressing themselves? And so this is not to disrespect or demean your partner or yourself, but what it is to do is to say it's the simplest of things. The solutions are often very simple. The child wants a cookie, and you tell them there ain't no cookies. And so they don't care about the fact that there ain't no cookies because they want it now. Don't let them be too, but I want a cookie. They don't have no concept of the fact that you got to go to the store to get the cookies. The cookies don't grow in a pot here at the house. I don't got no cookies, right? So you can give them that. I ain't got no cookies. Ain't no cookies. Why you keep talking to me about cookies, right?
I want some cookies.
I should have known. Don't mind us, please. Don't mind us.
You threw me the Uber.
You're so inappropriate. So inappropriate. So you can give them that, right? But we don't do that with kids, right? Because whether you realize it or not, whether you concretely think through this situation like this, if you're in your kitchen with a 2 or 3-year-old, but I want a cookie. Now, some of y'all might. Some of y'all, I said it ain't no cookies. Y'all come back and see us another day because that's not the appropriate response. Most of us will really try to comfort the child. Oh, I'm so sorry. I know you want a cookie, but we don't have any cookies right now. I'm so sorry. I know you want that cookie you see, but we can't have that right now. I understand. I understand that's what you want. It's going to be okay. You can have it on another day. So it's not about the particular circumstance, right? Because they're going to be very elementary, rudimentary kind of situations you think of when you think about kids. But what are you giving? Can anybody tell me, what are you giving that 2 or 3-year-old in that moment when they are really upset and they're trying to get you to understand that they want a cookie at this moment in time? What are you giving them? Can somebody drop a comment? All right, I'm gonna do it one more time because I need somebody to drop a comment. I want a cookie. I want a cookie. Oh, I'm so sorry. I know you want a cookie, sweetie, but you can't have a cookie right now. You can't have a cookie right now because I just don't have one. Maybe we can get one next week. Right? Gardner said, mind blown. I'm serious. Y'all lost right now? Just type an L if you lost. I just want to know. Just type an L. Let me know where y'all are. Okay, thank you. Sometimes the comments, it was crickets out this joint. I was like, what's going on? But I see your comments coming in now on Facebook and YouTube. Where y'all at? So I see some of the comments, validating their feelings, compassion, comfort. That's what you're giving them. So what the hell does your partner need in the moment? It is often very simple. Oh, y'all coming with it now. Attention, understanding, compromise, time. So give your partner what they need. It is never about what's happening in the moment. It's not about the situation. It's about connecting to their unmet need, which is always, almost always around a feeling. Yes, fine 29, empathy. Felicia said, L, I'm lost. So that's what you're giving them. And so I often say, think about kids, because we're able to get really clear when we're clouded by our emotions and our anger and all of that stuff. And then our partner is coming with what they're coming with. We're thinking about the particular situation and, what happened at the bank or whatever. And we're caught up in that. That ain't even a real issue. The fundamental thing you need to figure out is what feeling you need to supply your partner with. And yes, this is advanced couplenomics right here. Okay, I just made that up. Couplenomics, right? This is advanced. This is for the persons who can, regulate their feelings of irritation and get clear about what is it that they need, right? And the easiest way I have found, and oftentimes it's just a simple strategy, is think about kids, because it becomes real clear. What is it that they need? What is it they need? What's happening, right? You give it to them, and then and only then will you be able to make some progress.
But do you do it even when you don't feel it?
When you don't feel what?
When you don't feel like connecting. When you don't feel like showing compassion.
Oh, y'all already know the answer. Because I don't think I think that's most people. It's not me, but most people, when you're in the middle of a difficult scenario, right, and in some conflict, you're not gonna feel like it. You're not gonna want to. Some people do. Sometimes you do, but that's only after you've you decide when you're gonna be unmad, and then you want me to stop being mad, and then you're
in my club,
right? You know what? That's what it feels like too. I'm over it. I'm like, no, right? but you have to do it even when you don't want to do it, which is why I say it's advanced couple game. You understand? Because it's not about what you feel. It's about what's required. You understand? It's like when you at work, you do what you need to do. Some of y'all don't. Some of y'all looking at y'all, feedback from your supervisor, and they telling you you get a paycheck every 2 weeks. So, and we don't opt out to give you that paycheck. So we need you to not opt out on some assignments. And so you might find this theme in various parts of your life. Mm-hmm. But the bottom line is that if you are by and large, for the most part, a responsible citizen, a responsible worker, a responsible person, you do, for the most part, right? Nobody's 100%, but for the most part, you do what is required, then you should do no differently in your relationship. Mm-hmm. No differently. All right. Last but not least, and we can never, ever, 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 mm-hmm. ever overemphasize this, particularly as we are moving into a time of gratitude.
Yeah. So again, when it comes to you all really trying to stop anger from blocking intimacy in your relationship, it's imperative, y'all, that you share your appreciation of your partner. Mm-hmm. You got to share your appreciation. I mean, your partner has done or is doing, so much in your relationship, and not just for the relationship, but also for him or herself.
Oh, somebody might be like, they ain't doing nothing. What you talking about?
And so, but what I would say is this:
that's perspective, though.
It is perspective, and so they may not be doing something right now, but what have they done for you before? Mm-hmm. You might not be doing nothing for me lately, but what have you done for me before? And so, again, it's important that in order for you to get past the anger, you need to develop a perspective of your relationship that's not just one that's in the moment. Mm-hmm. It's got to be bigger than the moment. And so when you look at your partner for who he was or who she was, where she was or where he was and where he's come, then there has to be some element of growth there. And it may not be growth. But again, if you look at your partner in his totality or her totality, and you see that him or her as an individual has definitely made some shifts, some movement, some change in their life, or even if they haven't made change, what has impacted them to stand still? They're bigger than what you see in front of you. They're bigger than that. And so again, to develop appreciation for him or her, what you got to do is look at them completely, look at them wholly, and realize that their life and who they are today is really what has been developed in them throughout the course of their life, throughout their history. And so you need to develop some appreciation for that. And if you can't do anything but say thank you. Thank you. Demonstrate some gratitude. Demonstrate some gratitude. Say thank you for your partner.
For putting up with me.
For putting up with me, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for putting up with me. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Lord knows. You're welcome.
I said thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
right, y'all. Gratitude. That's always the way out. That's why we wanted to end with that one, because gratitude is important, not just for your relationship, but for every opportunity that you have to grow and to go to the next level. You may not always like it. Most of us don't want the lesson. We just want the outcome. We don't want to go through the process, but go through the process and be grateful in the process. If you can't do it in the moment, like my husband said, then you got to have some discipline to do it later. Don't just focus on the messed upness. I'm going to say something else. Don't just focus on that. Focus on what you want to grow, which is connection, which is love, which is intimacy, and discipline. Discipline so that you can get what you need. Guys, we hope that this has been of help to you. Oh my goodness. Real Spit Bond said, is it a possibility of very slow growth? Do I have a choice in leaving? You know, we all have choices. We always have choices. So everybody always has a choice. And most change is incremental. Most growth is slow. That's pretty much what it is. So change is incremental. You can pause and tap out. You're going to start over with somebody else and you're going to be set back further than where you was with the one you got now. So, it always depends on the circumstance and the situation. The choices are always before us. Just choose to take at least one thing you heard this evening and to apply it. Just one. Don't be a consumer of information and then go in your house with your boo and not do nothing. Because you know better. You know a little bit more. Just based on this evening and the comments that people are dropping, just based on what we shared. So if you got more insight, use it. It takes courage. It takes leadership. It takes vulnerability. Right? And God will grow you that way when your partner ain't even thinking about you. Because you think it's about them. But what you don't even recognize and realize is that it's about you getting all that you need and growing to where you need to grow within the context of the relationship. And when you surrender to that, your partner will start to fall in line or they'll fall away. Either way, just do what you're supposed to do. Y'all are welcome. We thank you for this evening.
Thank you.
Happy early Thanksgiving. And we see y'all next week sometime. It won't be on Thanksgiving or near that, but we'll holler. All right, y'all.
All right, y'all. Peace.
Bye.